What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to episode 276 of the Crash Bang Boom podcast. Today's guest is a trailblazer in extreme drumming, and he's even co-hosted with me on this podcast. That guest would be the one and only John Longstreth, ladies and gentlemen. John and I delve into the symptoms, diagnosis, surgery, and subsequent physical therapy, all stemming from his bout with carpal tunnel recently. We also talk about him revisiting Dave Lombardo's playing in Slayer for the upcoming Slayer tribute show at Lucky 13's in Brooklyn, Saturday, November 18th. So if y'all are in the tri-state area, try to catch that. Today's episode is sponsored by oneuploops.com. Drummer, producer, and more, Carson Gant and his team spent an incredible amount of time recording over 430,000 shaker, tambourine, and hi-hat loops at every possible tempo and multiple feels with incredible mics and outboard gear for you to pick and choose. It's organized for you to find exactly what you need with just a few clicks, and everything feels and sounds incredible. You can sign up for free to check it out and gain full access to all 430,000 loops starting at just $6 a month. No download limits, whatever you want, whenever you want. New loops, one-shots, and drum breaks are being added weekly. Definitely a great addition to the arsenal of any drummer and or producer, and I can vouch for that, having used it myself. So check it out, and that's oneuploops.com. Crash Bang Boom Podcast can be found where all podcasts are found. If you like what you hear, please check out the previous 270-plus episodes and give me a double high five if you can, or just a like or a subscription or a positive review. That would be appreciated. Anywho, without further ado, John Longstreth. Be on the lookout for him on tour with Origin early next year as well. Blast off with doubles in the feet. Crash, bang, boom.
Crowds go mad with joy.
Yes! All right, I'm here with the one, the only John Longstreth. John, I feel like it's been a small lifetime of sorts since we last spoke, and in that time you had a surgery on, of all things, your hands/wrists. So, one, how are you doing now? And then, of course, hell, you got to tell me about this crazy surgery. Was it carpal tunnel?
It was carpal tunnel. I'm
carpal
great.
tunnel. There it is.
Carpal tunnel, yeah. But no, I'm great. I think the last time we talked was that with Derek Roddy?
I think it was, yeah. That was probably that had to have been over 2 years ago.
It was still hardcore pandemic o'clock at that point.
It was,
and I remember because Derek was talking about how they were starting to open up the parks, and I'm like, oh my God, they're going to open up the parks, and it was a long chunk of time before they opened any parks or did anything like that around here.
Right. Right. I mean, I was hanging out the whole time in like McCarran Park, and they had said that we had to distance and whatnot. I was also quite cocky about it. I was convinced that I couldn't get it somehow, even though I talked shit throughout the entire pandemic. I never did get it. As far as being outside, I was never too concerned about getting it. And I think the science would say that I was probably right in that regard. So maybe shutting down beaches, parks, and maybe those were some mistakes, and maybe hysteria kind of took over for a little while there.
I don't know what to tell you. The weirdest thing about it was like not hearing anything, like, because at that point in time I was living in Queens.
Yeah,
I'm living in Brooklyn now, and like you couldn't hear anything. Step outside, you heard nothing. You would hear the
right.
distant sirens from across town,
right?
Because somebody was sick or because something was going crazy because of, like you said, there was some hysteria happening in there. But yeah, that's one of the things that I just can't even really, I feel like I can't even really talk about it. I can't believe we went through that. I can't believe that went on for so long. I can't believe it's still hanging over my life to like certain degrees. But
yeah, did you ever get it by chance?
Yeah, I got it. I got the light version. I think I got the Omicron version.
Yeah.
Just kind of laid in bed and just went, whoa, this is weird.
Right.
And then for another 2 days, I just felt like I had a cold. But
everyone that I know, the majority of which, I mean, and basically all my friends, just me and my wife, somehow we didn't get it, but basically all my other friends got it. And yeah, to the extent of which it was pretty much how you described, mostly just sort of a shitty cold. So
it was a shitty cold.
Yeah. Damn, dude. Well, I guess going back to this carpal tunnel, for some reason I'm thinking like corporal, like it's in the military. Carpal tunnel syndrome. Tell me, I guess, a little bit about what happened. It sounds like you had been dealing with some pain I'm assuming, was that intermittently throughout the years, and then it became a point to where it was it constant?
The pain didn't show up until a month or so before I got it done.
Right.
But I don't remember how far back it goes because I've talked to a few friends that have said, yeah, you were talking about your hands going numb back then.
Right.
And my friend Jeff, who's the guitarist in Crater, I had that project going in 13, way back when. I mean, that project goes back so far. And I remember being in Gainesville, upstate New York. So that puts us around 2014.
Wow.
And I remember, and he said, yeah, I used to talk about it back at the house. But so what was happening was these two fingers would go numb, and I just figured it was just kind of normal.
Really?
Well, because it didn't hinder me at all, and a lot of times it would start to go numb. So I would just kind of stretch out, drink some water, and developed a couple of other things. Like I started playing like this from time to time.
Wow. In between your index and bird finger, I guess that is.
Yes.
Yes.
And so that mitigated it lightly here and there. But what happened is I want to say about 2 years ago, I went and got diagnosed because at this point in time, about 2 years ago, my hands were just numb all the time.
Oh.
I was waking up with my hands numb, and then they would kind of come back, and then they would kind of numb in and out throughout the day. And there was a good stretch of days where they were just always numb. And I did a lot of playing without really being able to feel my hands.
Wow.
So there was a lot of conscious don't grip.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a lot of thinking through my playing a lot. But yeah, for a long time. And like I said, maybe around 2015, 16, 17 was when it really started to go from these two to the whole hand just being numb.
Wow.
And so I got looked at by a doctor, and she did the little strength tests and hit me in certain places and diagnosed me with carpal tunnel. But she said it wasn't so bad that I needed the surgery. She goes, "We'll push you through therapy." And so we go through occupational therapy, which was great. I mean, this occupational therapist was fantastic. He did all of these massages in my arms and my shoulders and all that kind of stuff. And at that point in time, they were calling it double crush, which is where, if you have big, heavy shoulders like me, it's very easy to just kind of hang out like this all the time,
Yeah, hunched over with what would be classically considered bad posture.
And this is how people get it through, like, mouse and keyboard is they work like this a lot. And they kind of do this thing a lot. And what you get is impingement up here. You get things kind of closing up, and that causes inflammation. And then it comes down and it gets into this elbow area, and it just more inflammation. And by the time it gets here, it's rubbing up against the carpal ligament. So that's what they assume was going on. So they put me through a bunch of exercises and a bunch of therapy, and it kind of went away. It definitely backed down. It did not disappear. I would still wake up wearing a brace at night, and I just assumed that it was because I was kind of like pretzeling myself up while I was asleep.
Definitely.
It went away. We went on tour. It came back, and it came back, pretty much full on. And then I got home, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And the thing that really made me start figuring, like just aiming at the thing, how to stop it, was I got trigger finger in here. And
so your finger, does that mean your finger's just kind of retracted?
It would just lock in place, this finger, middle finger, and I had to pop it loose. And when you pop that finger loose, you feel it just go zip.
Oh.
And it just kind of felt like ballpoint pen in the hand.
Oh, God, dude.
It just randomly having a conversation. My girlfriend and I were at this bar around the corner that my friend owned. And he goes, "Oh, yeah, you got to go talk to this. Hang on, let me text my friend." He picks up his phone. He disappears, and he comes back. He goes, "Yeah, I'm texting you." Boom. He sends me a website called the Musician Treatment Foundation.
Yeah.
And I click on it, and like we left the bar. We were done at the bar, and I'm just talking about this. He goes, "Yeah, this hand surgeon guy works on all these people. He works on he worked on Les Paul, he works on Mike Stern, he works on all these people, and I'm like, interesting. But it was like, okay, well, we clicked on the website, we looked at it, apply. I applied, wrote a short email about it. Yeah, I got a phone call about 4 days later.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, okay, we need tax information. We need proof that you tour. We need proof that you play music and make money, in varying degrees around the world. What constitutes as a professional musician and a hobbyist, vastly different.
Right.
Because I make anything playing music.
Right.
And because I have enough video footage on the internet, I'm a professional musician, I guess.
Okay, congratulations.
Boom, qualified. And they sent me down to this surgery center in Midtown Manhattan, and this doctor just looks at me, runs the same battery of tests as the last doctor did, and he goes, yeah, you got carpal tunnel. And I mean, this guy didn't bullshit me at all. He goes, you can do therapy if you want, but it's just going to come back if you want to eliminate it. And it's like, when he said eliminate, like those words came out in chrome. It's like, well, if you want to eliminate it.
Yeah. You're like, okay, yeah.
I suggest what we call bilateral carpal tunnel release surgery.
Right. Both sides. Boom.
And I'm like, well, I'm free in August.
Right.
And this was like June. So what he did right there is he put a cortisone shot in here for the trigger finger.
Oh, yeah.
He says they don't do cortisone shots for the carpal tunnel because doesn't work that way, but because of what was happening in the trigger finger, which is inflammation and all that kind of stuff, that a simple cortisone shot can suffice.
Wow.
Have you ever had a cortisone shot?
I got it in my wrist early on when I was playing. They're a giant needle in there. I have a fear, a phobia of needles in general. I'm covered. People see me covered in tattoos, and I'm like, that's superficial. I don't give a shit about that. It's about sharp things being inside my body. Come on now, that is fucking vastly different to me. So yeah, I freak out, and I freaked out about that, and that son of a bitch hurt too.
Yeah. Again, my girlfriend, she's sitting right here in the doctor's office, and he's like, yeah, we'll stick you with a cortisone shot, and that'll be good, and then we'll see you in a month for the surgery. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm like, okay, cortisone shot. What do I know about a cortisone shot? It goes in deep, and it goes into or near the joint, and they hit you with a bunch of cortisone, a bunch of viscous fluid.
Yeah.
He goes, it's going to be a little interesting. Your finger's going to feel like it's going to blow up, but it won't. It's just going to go. I'm like, okay, cool.
Jesus.
So he pulls out the needle, and she just kind of goes like that. And I'm like, wait, what? And I have my hand out. I didn't even look. I've donated blood. I've had shots. I've had vaccines. I just don't look.
That's generally the better way to do it.
And it was just like, okay, ouch. That sucks.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that sucks.
Yeah.
And to the point where, like, I start giggling. Like, and everybody's, what the fuck's wrong with you? I don't know. This is hysterical. And this is the most painful thing ever.
Yeah.
And then he takes the needle out, and I'm just like, Wurp.
Your finger was back pretty much,
it was
like
numb, completely numb for like 3 days, just like number than numb.
Yeah.
Because even with the carpal tunnel, when it was numb, it wasn't like hand not there numb. It was like what TV fuzz feels like.
Right.
I guess. So, but I could still kind of like, if my hand was numb, I still could have gone, ow. But this was like gone. It's like it wasn't there. It was so weird. 3 days later, the carpal tunnel is gone, or the
trigger finger
is gone. And so he put me on a steroid so I could get through what I had going on that month. I had a couple of things going on. I had taught some lessons. I tracked the Malefic Throne drums, and then I went and played a show with Origin. Wow. Chicago Domination Fest.
Damn.
And I'm like, I got these things, and he goes, don't worry about it. We'll put you on prednisone, and it's a steroid, and it's an anti-inflammatory, and it's a little, it might up you a little bit. I'm like, okay. So I was on that for a good chunk of the month, and it was like carpal tunnel didn't exist.
Right.
But I'm like, I'm not going to stay on meds. I mean, it was still there, but yeah, I felt like I was on steroids. Felt like I was on Red Bull.
Nice. Yeah.
So yeah, eventually everything comes, we play the show, the Origin show, and then like 3 days later I go to the Langone NYU,
Mm-hmm.
and they took me in and cut me open. So the way it happens is you're like, if you look down your hand, I guess, or look down your wrist, you kind of got this
Indentation sort of right there in the center of your wrist where it connects to your forearm. Yeah.
app. All your tendons and all your shit goes through there, and on top of that you got the median nerve, and when that swells up it pushes the median nerve up into the carpal tunnel, or the carpal ligament.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes in there, he cuts this way, and he comes in, or he goes in, either
Mm-hmm.
way, clip, and just leaves it.
Right.
And so that lets everything be free. And I guess in a microscopic sense, my hands are a tiny bit wider because everything just kind of goes,
Uh-huh.
it opens up a little bit.
Yeah.
And the goal is that carpal ligament grows back
Uh-huh.
in a relaxed state.
Right.
And so he did the right one first, and he's just like, this is really, really tight in here. And I heard him asking for extra drugs and,
Oh shit.
and all that kind of stuff. And because we have to go deeper and all, I'm like,
Oh, no.
boy. But,
Oh fuck.
yeah, everything ended up being fine. Stitches. I was in mitts for a week.
Damn.
Cut the mitts off, and it was another 2 weeks before I tried using my hands on the drums. But I went back to work.
Right.
So I just, I was, all in all, I was laid up for about a week and a half.
That's unbelievable, because when you see the incision, which I don't know how many stitches, or if collectively or on either hand, each hand for that matter.
I think it was 6 and 8.
God, it looks worse than that. I gotta be honest, it looks fucking pretty gnarly, man.
Well, the funny thing is I remember being 4 or 5 years old, and my mom had carpal tunnel.
Huh.
She did a lot of seamstress work.
Okay.
And so she went and she got the surgery. And I remember I'm like, what had happened? So she takes off the bandage and shows it to me. And she had the stitches, and I ran screaming.
Right.
Like, boom. And I'm like,
Oh,
so
Lord.
when my girlfriend cut off the bandages for the first time and opened it up, that completely catapulted me back to that.
Yeah.
And I just was just like, but I
Oh.
couldn't quite run,
Yeah. Damn, dude.
But it's the price you got to pay to keep going, I suppose.
Yeah.
And, I'm close enough to 50 where I'm really going to be able to appreciate, like, hey, surprise, teenager hands again. But
Damn, dude. And that's unbelievable that you were able to get back on the drums as soon as you did. I mean, it sounds like inside of about 3 weeks, you're at least able to. I mean, were you pretty much limited to like pad work, or did you get on the drum set so you were getting like a larger range of motion? And where did you feel like your hands were at when you first started, kind of got back on it?
I was off the drums for 2 days completely.
Oh, damn.
The entire time I'm going back to the practice room and I'm just doing footwork.
Oh, okay. Well,
So
yeah.
one of the things I did was I set up a secondary bass drum with a double pedal on it, and I brought the beaters way up and way back and soft springs.
Wow, so you really had to work for it.
Idea was to learn the ankle motion more.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that was difficult about picking up the drumsticks again was, how when you play and the stick hits the back of your hand.
Sure. So for, I guess, the listeners, the fulcrum is between the index finger, thumb, and then the back. It sort of springs against the thumb muscle, extended thumb muscle. I don't think that's what it's called, but fuck, hopefully they know what I'm
Well,
talking
either
about.
way, the stick sits right in there, essentially right next door to where the scar is.
Oh,
and so
right.
so having that bump.
Mm-hmm.
So when I kind of got back to playing, I was trying to keep the stick off my hand.
Right.
So I was getting a lot of just this thing happening,
Mm-hmm.
which was interesting because it was another set of mechanics that I was learning when I was a little kid, from when I took lessons at one point in time. It was he did a lot of
hand technique stuff, be it French or German or sort of whatever people call in between there, American?
Well, it was like a classical approach to snare drum.
Okay.
So the fulcrum was here, the middle finger, and this didn't really do much of anything. And
Middle finger and the index is kind of out of it.
yeah, that's kind of how it was. And it was a lot of this, and the wrist move like this more.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of went back to that a little bit. And yeah, it was practice pad. It was like a minute of practice pad. I did like a short little video of like a week later.
Mm-hmm.
Ill-advised.
Oh, really?
Really shouldn't have done that, but I did, and I'm fine. But at the same time, I hear, I read about there's Thomas Lang. He had a real detailed account of how he had the surgery and he hurt himself somehow for jumping into it too early.
Oh no, damn.
Charlie Benante had a story about it, but that's one of the things I like about Charlie so much is he just doesn't talk as much. So he's like, yeah, I had carpal tunnel. You can't see the incision. The doctor's great. Now I'm a better drummer again. And that was the story. I was just like, okay.
Basically 4 sentences.
Yeah,
Wow.
So, reading about Charlie, reading about Thomas Lang, and I'm like, if these two monsters can do it,
Yeah.
I can do it. I'm not going to be afraid of this thing. My mom is a nurse. I grew up in the medical world. I'm not afraid of doctors, and
Mm-hmm.
it sounds real 2020 and all that, but the vaccine thing never really frightened me. It's just like, oh, it's a vaccine. It's just we were getting thrown vaccines all my entire time in grade school and high school,
Right.
grade school.
Yeah.
So it was just like, oh, it's that again. All right, cool.
Right.
And I've had a couple of small surgeries, so let's do the hand surgery.
Damn.
It was either going to stop me from playing drums or I was just going to go down a slow, dark path of just diminishing. And that was that was just, there was about a 2-week period where I was just like, I'm done and I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And so this is going to suck. And do I quit? Do I keep working on this thing? I guess I keep working on it. But if the surgery was going to cause the kind of damage that a lot of, well, you got to be careful about that, man. Surgery, doctors and all that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But if that was what was going to end me, at least I was giving it a shot.
Yeah. What's crazy is part of what you mentioned about the dark rabbit hole, if you will, of questioning whether or not you're going to be able to play again, or if you return to it, is it going to be as good, or is it just going to gradually get worse, etc. I had a crazy one where I got in a barroom brawl with this redneck, and it turned into like a larger brawl. We ended up behind like the bar, and he grabbed a vodka bottle and swung it at my head, and I grabbed him and smashed his face into a cash register and proceeded to beat the shit out of him. But in doing so, fractured my hand. It was insane. The whole thing. He ran down the bar like it was a Wild West movie, knocking the hanging lights going. Because I called him. He ran at me, and then he was leaving, and we tangled for a minute. He was leaving. I was like, "Come back and get some, little boy." And he was like, "Nobody calls me little boy." That's if you ever want to
call me little boy.
Yeah. Turns out that will make a redneck real mad if that's what you're looking for. So I succeeded in that, and then this whole barroom brawl ensued. But afterwards, when they handcuffed me, I was like, man, fuck, my hand is really hurting. And they tried to get me to sign something when I left like the police station or whatever. And I was like, I can't really sign anything. My hand is just absolutely screwed. So I went the next day and they x-rayed it and they're like, yeah, you fractured it. So they put me in a cast. So I fractured the pinky, I think it's metacarpal, and slight fracture on the other one too. So it was a total boxer's fracture, as they call them. But in being in the cast, I think I was in it for a month or so, during which time I actually, my grandmother was like, "I'm so sorry you got injured. Here's $1,000. And then one of my buddies goes, "Well, dude, you want to enter this pyramid scheme? We can make $7,000 net if we get on the pyramid scheme." And I was like, yeah, fuck, let's do it. And we did it. I got through. So then I had $8,000. I gave my grandmother her $1,000 back. Then I had $7,000 cash. My arm is in a cast. But I was like, at least I got $7,000 from a pyramid scheme. I mean, statute of limitations should take care of that at this point. This was many years ago. I know you're like, this story's got some fucking.
Wait a minute. When did the fight happen?
Like what year?
Yeah.
It was over 20 years ago.
Okay, for some crazy reason, I thought this happened within like the last couple of years. You mentioned it to me. You're like, yeah, I broke my hand in a ballroom brawl, barroom brawl.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's why the podcast went away for a while. What
No.
the fuck is that guy getting into fucking barroom brawls for at his age? This is insane.
No, that would be especially ridiculous. But I guess my long-winded story is all leading up to after being in a cast for like a month or whatever I was in. I went through hand therapy, but when I took it off, my hand and forearm was absolutely like emaciated, pasty, looked terrible. And at the time when I still had hair, I would shave my face, and I didn't have the motor skills in my hand at the time to hold a razor and even shave my face. So at that point, I remember thinking, well, fuck, I guess the right hand's not coming back anytime soon. And it came back. It actually mishealed. To this day, my hand is like fused together, half of it, to where while one hand, like the left hand, is like more malleable and kind of like bends a little bit. This one is basically just like a congealed lump of like scar and bone.
Oh,
But
wow.
I still have basically the same range of motion in both. And one other thing that I will say, I went to a doctor because I was like, they're saying my hand mishealed. Should I get surgery? And I have told this part of it before. The doctor was like, we'd have to break it possibly in multiple places and then hope that you didn't have that much more scar tissue after the fact and make this worse. So he said, hopefully, and you being a drummer, you'll be able to work it out and you should get some semblance of that back. So thankfully, that's what he said rather than, yeah, let's just go ahead and get surgery right now. I'm glad he said that because I was looking for any answer at that particular time. And maybe it would have worked. Maybe it would have been even better, you know? I don't know.
I don't know, man. Yeah, the medical thing is scary.
It is.
And especially my girlfriend is not American. She is from Australia. So,
okay.
and my ex-girlfriend was half Canadian, and
Right.
and so everybody is just like, oh, the medical system here. And
Definitely.
that's a thing. It's really hard. And just like I had to have a abscess tooth taken out up here at one point in time. So that was kind of like, and again, you get a bill for $7, and I'm like, what is this bill for $7 for? And you realize it's part of the medical bill. Then you pay it. Then they send you a check for the same $7 because it was a clerical error of some sort. And
right.
I'm like, okay, I guess I got a $7 check.
So weird.
Cash the $7 check, put it in your bank account. Then you get a bill for $12.
Right.
It's like so strange.
It really is. It's insanity. Damn, dude. Well, let me ask you this. You recently did put out a playthrough. I knew you had gone through this, the surgery that is, fairly recently. Haven't talked to you a little bit, but I wasn't sure how far back it was nor how soon you were able to get back on the kit. But the recent playthrough that I saw you in, man, you looked like peak form to me. I couldn't tell any difference. You were shredding like a motherfucker.
That was before the surgery.
Oh, it was before the surgery?
Yes.
Ah, wow. Okay.
And you can probably see certain places if you look where I'm flipping over to here.
Uh-huh.
One of the things about about the hands going to sleep was a lot of times just doing this over and over again would cause it. So
right.
It's kind of how I went from having two ride cymbals on the drum set, from watching Gene Hoglan as a kid. Ding, diddling, dinga, ding.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of just being like, ding, 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 diddling, diddling, ding, 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 diddling, diddling, I actually started using the left ride a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Not with much dexterity, but just to bang out 16ths, just to give this hand a little bit of a time to take a break.
Yeah.
And so I was actually able to develop some pretty interesting techniques to compensate for the numbness.
Right.
So that's kind of where, just sort of looking back, I'm thinking that's where a lot of I call it faux ambidexterity because I'm not ambidextrous, but
yeah.
just developing my left side more. And yeah, so that was over the spring. I can't quite remember. I did 2 sessions. I went down and did a session for Pearl.
Okay.
For the Demon XR and the Reference 1 kit.
Mm-hmm.
And then like following month, I went back down again and did the Meinl shoot.
Right.
So far, only one of those Pearl videos has seen the light of day, but the Saligia video was the final one of the Meinl videos. And that was all done with numbness in and out, you know.
Damn, dude.
It wasn't going to last much longer like that. It just wasn't. Like,
Yeah.
that was also before the trigger finger. I think the trigger finger was just starting to happen around then.
Wow.
The trigger finger didn't hurt until a month of having it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm looking at it. I'm checking it out online. I'm looking at all what you have to do about it and how, you know. And they said that it was a product. In many cases, it can be a product of carpal tunnel.
Okay.
I'm like, well, okay, I already know I got that. But yeah, those videos, I think I did 5 songs for the Meinl shoot and 4 songs for the Pearl shoot.
Wow.
And yeah, very, very nicely accepted. So
Oh yeah.
that's Meinl is great like that. Meinl wants to, show off their artists, and they want to show off specifically their younger artists. I'm not younger, but
Mm-hmm.
like, for instance, Bryce Butler recently signed with Meinl.
Okay.
Boom, video shoot.
Right.
And so awesome.
They've been really great quite a few years now for getting really great looking video shoots with great audio. So the whole production of it is like super tight that they put out.
Yeah, I've done 2 of those for Meinl, and they've both been, just really easy. I fly in the day before. They put me in a hotel room. They give me a meal voucher. I eat my food. I go back to my hotel. I go to bed. I wake up the next morning. They take me to the studio. We set up the drums. We get everything ready. We get angles. We get tones. We bang out 4 or 5 songs. And then they take me out for dinner and beers, take me back to my hotel, go to bed, pick me up, take me to the airport, back home.
Nice. Damn, dude.
Fantastic. It is as close to red carpet treatment that, I've ever really experienced.
Hell yeah, man.
Being from the Midwest and all.
Fuck yeah. So, man, you mentioned posture earlier as a possible contributing factor to some of the issues that you had with the hands, wrists, et cetera. Would you say that possibly had to do with it more than anything, or would you say that in hindsight that there were any aspects of your drumming, be it ergonomics, hand technique, et cetera, that contributed to it? Do you have a sense of maybe what contributed to what ultimately became the carpal tunnel?
So, as I said earlier, they thought it was what they called a double crush carpal tunnel, which is the classic, lockdown, boom.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the classic, mouse and keyboard desk worker.
Yeah, ultimately inflammation that starts in your shoulders and then sort of filters out through your elbows all the way into that area.
Yes. If I do this and if I fall asleep like this, or if I fall asleep like this, I can still numb my hands out.
Right. So pretzeling yourself, so to speak, throughout the night in various kind of shitty positions.
Because you can just do that.
Right.
If you ever hang over, I used to do it to myself all the time when I was a little kid and I was in the backseat of the car and I'd hang out the car, just sit there and just feel the numb.
Yeah.
Because reading about this, because obviously, okay, so now this carpal tunnel is really fucking serious. Now there's pain involved and now there's surgery involved and
yeah,
yada, yada. And I guess I better get to reading. I was really cautious not to over Dr. Google it, but I did look up a lot of stuff. And one of the things they were saying was it's a lot more hereditary than they used to think it was.
Which is interesting because you said your mother had it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. My mom had it. It's a lot more hereditary, and it's also just like the way shit's built, I guess. I have muscular hands. I play drums. I'm a chef. I work with my hands all day. I ride a bike all the damn time.
Right. You were doing jiu-jitsu for a while?
I was doing jiu-jitsu for a long time. I was boxing for a while. So my hands are strong. They're not quite as strong as they were. They're getting back, and as all of this musculature just builds up, everything just, it's got to go somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got that. Then you have the hereditary thing. And then you just have overuse, just using your hands constantly.
Repetitive tasks, especially with the high BPM and, Yeah, that you do.
and the impact,
Right.
everything. So it's, I'm talking to the doctor about it, and he goes, it's not just one thing. There's so many variables, and it's just that's your end of the lottery. Some people it just doesn't happen. Other people it does. And like when he got in there, he was like, yeah, this is really, really tight in here. It's amazing that you've been playing drums on this, with this scenario. But
Wow.
so I don't know. I am definitely paying a lot more attention to my technique. My drum set has been in 3 different configurations since I've been back playing.
Mm-hmm.
And because of what I've been playing, because of what I've been using to rehab on, I've kind of gone to this weird kind of Slayer thing almost, because I've been playing nothing but Slayer songs, really.
Okay, so we should preface that with, because you have it, and apparently you have a show coming up. Is it in November where you're going to play a bunch of Slayer tunes?
November 18th. Yeah, in Brooklyn.
Nice.
And I accepted this gig almost a year ago.
Wow.
It's called F-Bomb NYC.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a handful of guys, here in the city. And, once a month they do a tribute show. And it's always tribute shows. It's 4 core dudes, I think. And then it's anywhere between 5 to 15 other musicians that cycle in and out. I did a Van Halen tribute with these guys, maybe 4 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
And it was a lot of fun. And they always do like 2 sets, so they did a 2-set Van Halen thing, and I did the early set.
Mm-hmm.
I was lined up for the Priest tribute, but we got a tour, so I ended up not doing that, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But he called me and he's like, do you want to do the Slayer tribute and do both sets? And I was like,
Wow.
how many songs? He's like, 25 songs. And I'm like,
holy shit.
let's talk about payment. We talked about payment, and everything's really cool.
Yeah.
So kind of looking at this carpal tunnel thing that's happening. I'm like, oh God, August, but the show is in November. Okay, cool. So really what happened is I just went directly back into all the old Slayer songs I used to play as a teenager, which was kind of neat.
I bet.
Because it's definitely back to the drawing board. It's definitely back to the roots, but with a little more detail involved, because I'm actually, Lombardo is far weirder than Bostaph.
Oh, 100% he is. Yeah.
I never really, there's something to be said about learning earlier material from musicians that didn't quite have their system in place yet. And they're just
absolutely
kind of, playing out the fury of their teenage years and all that stuff, because
totally.
I go back and I listen to some of the earlier Origin stuff or the earlier Angel Corp stuff. I don't fucking want to touch that. I'll just write new stuff over those riffs. It's just, I don't want to try and unweave that spaghetti mess or whatever that was.
Right.
But there's a definite method with Dave, and the interesting thing about him is he's a left-handed on a righty kit.
I didn't know that he was left-handed.
I think he's left-handed.
I'll be damned. Okay.
I thought he was left-handed.
He might be.
I might be like checking myself at this point, but
that's all right.
So a lot of those fills, because it seems that he has more alternating lead going on with his drum fills than most drummers are. Most drummers, right-handed, start all their fills with their right hand.
Right.
But there's like certain things where he's like starting with his left, and like that drum fill break in the middle of War Ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
I don't fucking, it's impossible. I can't do it. I'm very, very close to doing it. But like what I thought was going to give me far much more trouble was going to be killing fields.
Right.
Just because of some of the crazy stuff. That came off pretty easily, because I think Bostaph might be a little more traditional in a sense.
I would say he is. Yeah, for sure.
And he's also a little more like Divine Intervention. A lot of his playing on there is a lot more death metal centric.
Right. As opposed to that kind of crazy combination that Lombardo does. And one of the things that I've heard Lombardo do, he really likes this fill that I heard, and I feel like Mitch Mitchell and Ian Pace of Deep Purple got it probably from like jazz guys. It's that thing, and then that he'll usually that'll set him up for whatever else, or just super fast singles or triplets, But I love Dave Lombardo's fills, man. They're very untraditional, but I can hear a little bit of where he's coming from, but also it's very much him. That's the thing.
Like, I grew up listening to Slayer, of course, and I was one of those kids where when Divine Intervention came out, I was like, oh shit, here's the new guy.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy means business. So for a long time, I was a Bostaph over Lombardo guy.
Wow.
But that was just because where I was at in my playing and, what I was looking for. And
I'm sure.
of course, coming back and listening to those old Slayer records and just hearing that iconic stuff that Dave played, I was just like, well, that was obviously a kid saying those things, when I was saying those
Yeah.
things. But of course, what was my experience level at then as it is now?
Of course.
So it's 2 sets of Slayer songs, the Metal Blade set and the Rick Rubin set, as it's being called.
Okay, fair enough.
And it's been really cool because, like, I don't know if I can play drums with this, so Hollowed Point was the song that I was working on first.
That's a good one.
And it
Yeah.
is just about as straightforward can be,
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah. And so that was like, I was kind of just sort of on that song for about 2 weeks. And really all I was doing with a lot of these songs, because my friend sent me all of the Guitar Pro MIDI guitar.
Oh, interesting.
So I would just put that in my computer and just play along to those, because
okay.
they're perfect. They're metronomically, all that kind of stuff. I had to monkey with a little bit of them because some of them were just not correct.
Uh-huh. Oh, I bet.
But yeah, so trying to develop all these Lombardo drum fills and all these thrash beats and all that kind of stuff on something, no guitar player plays that tight. So
Right.
setting myself up for being pretty sharp.
Maybe a little overly metronomic potentially.
We will see, because I'm not going to use the clicks live. I'm going to adapt to the guitar players, but
Yeah.
so yeah, it was really cool to kind of go back and review a lot of these old Slayer songs. Shit, I was working on Necrophiliac just today,
Uh-huh.
which is a ripper.
Oh, hell yeah, it is.
It's been a lot of fun. November 18th, Lucky 13.
Oh, nice.
It's in Brooklyn. And for anybody that's in Brooklyn, anybody that's listening to this and going, that'll be
awesome, man.
Yeah. And that is my first gig coming back from the surgery. And then I think I just accepted it the other night, but Origin should be hitting the road in February in the States.
Amazing, man.
Mm-hmm. Can't quite talk about with who yet because
Yep.
but it's pretty fucking big, pretty legendary. I'm pretty excited about it.
That's killer. Sweet Ola, man. Well, hopefully you'll be coming my way. I know. I don't even know if you know, but at some point you talked about the break that I took. We were in Salt Lake City, Utah, so we were just at a strange kind of place in life, and then ended up moving down here. So I'm like 40 minutes south of Atlanta. So
Okay.
we're in the Georgia area now. But
Georgia, I assume I imagine we'll play Atlanta. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a largely A market tour.
Okay, sweet.
But other than that, I think this month, I haven't quite talked to my guy yet, that Neurectomy record is finally gonna cut loose.
Okay, how long ago did you track the drums for that?
I don't remember.
Okay.
We were into the pandemic at that point.
Did you record them at your practice space, or did you go into a studio, or?
I went to Silver Chord, which is Gojira's
Oh, nice.
studio.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
And tracked the drums there, and that was a lot of fun. But I'm trying to remember. I think it's 23. It must have been 21.
That sounds about right.
Something like that. It was right around the time the January 6th thing happened and all that stuff.
Okay, gotcha.
I remember a lot of that racket happening.
Okay.
But yeah, track the drums then, and we've just been going slow. It'll be like a self-release.
Okay. I'll be on the lookout for it.
It's a fun album because it's just impossibly over the top.
I mean, I feel like there are a lot of Origin records that could kind of be classified as such, but
Neurectomy is kind of like Origin with all the rock and roll taken out.
Oh, wow. Holy shit.
Yeah, if you remove all the grindcore, if you remove the good times and, the beer drinkingness of the Origin albums.
Right.
You'll have the Neurectomy record. They kind of took all the technical parts from Origin and sort of distilled it.
Wow,
And
that's
then
crazy.
when they met me and they're like, "Do you want to play on this?" And I'm like, "Okay." And I ended up falling in love with the music. It's really, like I said, it's really technical, but it's also really interestingly constructed. It's really fucking dense.
Yeah, I bet.
And I'm talking to the guitar player about it, and he was a saxophone major in college.
Oh, bizarro.
So he's like a lot of tapping,
Sure.
the guys into Morbid Angel and, Vader and Cannibal Corpse and all those, they're
Yep.
not really going to dig it as much. But I think anybody that was ever into Psyopus, Dillinger Escape Plan, Brain Drill,
Okay.
because it's got a lot of that, but it's also got the straight up 2002 Myspace Fuck U Metal thing to it.
Yeah, I like that's quite a subgenre. 2002 Myspace Fuck You Metal. I love it.
Yeah, right. But yeah, it slots in with a lot of that. It's kind of like, if Rings of Saturn was nasty and brutal.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't want to.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna get mad at me for that.
Okay. Well, I'm psyched to hear it. It sounds like it would be absolutely brutals.
Brutal. And anybody, to go back for, the guys that are into Morbid Angel, Cannibal Corpse, Invader. I'm not leaving any of those dudes out either. We got the Malefic Throne record that's going to be out in 24 at some point.
Okay.
So 8 songs of post Angel Corpse, Morbid Angel sounding, metal.
Holy moly.
That is me and Gene from Angel Corpse, and then Steve Tucker from Morbid Angel.
Wow.
The EP is out. You can find it on, internet, Spotify, Tidal, whichever. We did a 3-song EP around 21, and that, got us some record label interest, and the drums for that are done, and I think we should be receiving guitar, bass, and vocal tracks, so you'll hear pretty soon to start the mix down, and hopefully we got a 24 release on that.
There you go, man.
Quite a few things coming from yours truly.
Awesome, John. Well, damn, dude, it was great catching up with you, man. Thanks for the time. Glad you're on the mend, and you've been reschooling yourself in the most nostalgic way possible with all this Slayer stuff.
Journey.
I bet it has, man. Clearly it has. Jeez Louise, dude. But, man, yeah, it was great talking to you as always, man, and we'll have to catch up soon.
Absolutely, Jody. Probably in February when we come through somewhere near Atlanta.
There we go, buddy. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and thanks to John for catching up. Always good talking with him and picking his brain about the madness that he has delved into throughout the years. And especially good to hear the story of adversity and coming through the other side. So props. We'll catch you on the next one. Crash, bang, boom.